Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and since it's Women's History Month, I'm here today to talk to you about Amazon's Prime Just Add Magic Season 1. I have been wanting to talk about this show for one extremely long time, ever since I started this channel. I've been wanting to talk about this show, and I think I started earlier this year. No, actually, I kind of started it late last year, but then I had it on another channel of mine. But then I deleted those videos and then I re-uploaded it this time on this channel. And it was like earlier this year. But yeah, this is something I really been wanting to talk about. Ever since on my other channel, I was talking about the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and how I don't like that show. And how I felt that Just Add Magic, even though it's for kids and it's lighthearted, it has some dark tones and it seems a whole lot scarier than whatever Sabrina tried to be. But yeah, I absolutely love this show. This show is very well written. And, the direction is great. The use of how they use magic is amazing because it's a low budget show. So they have to do the best they can. And what they do is amazing. Like you really feel there's magic happening when they cook. And not to forget, the acting is superb in this show. The older cast is great. The younger cast, my God, they amaze me. They are some really good actresses and stuff. Now, Just Add Magic. It's one of those type of shows that is literally targeted for kids. However, adults ended up watching this show. And not just adults with kids or nieces and nephews. Oh, no. Actual adults actually just started tuning into this show and they fell in love with it. And when the show came to an end after 4 seasons, like myself, we were devastated. It was like, no, don't do this. We need our show, man. It's like, and then when the girls left in season 3 for a new cast and spinoff to come in season 4 for 1 season only, it was like, man, it hurt. It hurts so bad. Because, you want your main cast to stay on the show and you don't know why they're leaving. But then they show back up in the 4th season. So towards the end, it's like, whew, thank God. But then when you find out the 4th season was the end of all ends, it's like, oh man. But yeah, how I got onto this, how I discovered this show is kind of unique and interesting. Cause yeah, I'm an adult, a grown man. I'm in my late 30s and stuff. And I know what you're thinking. Why is he watching this show for? Well, the reason is because when I got Amazon Prime a couple of years back, I was looking for adult stuff to watch. I couldn't find anything that was good at that time. I managed to find maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 shows at the most. But at first I couldn't find anything. And this is when Amazon Prime was slightly different. It was back in a time where they didn't have that much on there. And stuff they did have on there, if it was older shows, you still had to pay additional money for, which didn't make no sense. And so I'm just going around looking at some of the adult shows and they were so boring. Until this day, I still can't find no good adult shows on there. So then I decided, okay, whatever, I'll just go to the kids section and stuff. And then I found this show about soccer. It turned out to be very lame. It only lasted for 1 season. That lets you know how lame it is. And then I saw something called Just Add Magic. I'm like, oh, I like magical witch type stuff. Let's read and see what this is about. Oh, no witches? Well, why is there magic in it? And so I started reading and I watched the trailer. I'm like, hey, this is kind of interesting. So I started to watch it. And I will say, the first 10 minutes of the pilot episode, I almost turned it off because it's too gooberish and stuff. Because the pilot is completely different from the rest of the series. The pilot, the girls are much younger. And then you can tell at one point they had to refilm the pilot because when you go online, there's 2 different pilots. So there's some deleted scenes of 2 actresses, the mom and the grandmother, played by 2 different people in the original pilot. And then so when they refilmed it, you can tell that, it's different because people are slightly older. Like one of the main girls, she is like a little taller and stuff now. Like the pilot had them talking like Disney Junior kids, talking about holy banana pants. And I'm just like, what the world? So I almost turned it off. But then I kept with it because after those 10 minutes, that's when the magic happens. I'm just like, oh, hey, things are getting kind of interesting now. And then when it gets to the end, it's like, whoa, what is going on? And like it got dark. And I'm just like, oh, I gotta stay with this show. And then with every other episode after that, it is meant for family. It is lighthearted, but there are some serious mature themes. Not mature, like, oh my God, so bad I have to like complain, nothing like that. And then it does have some darkness to it, but not so dark that it will scare your kids the way you want to get a show canceled and stuff. So it has a nice balance to this show, and it has a maturity level. And that's why I watch this show, and why I watch a few other like kid shows here and there, if it's mature enough. If it's not, I won't do it. Because like when it comes to things like Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, I don't watch those shows. Like the last two things on Disney Channel I ever watched was Bonked, and the only reason why I watched that because it was the Jesse spinoff, and then I watched The Secret of Surplus Hills or Springs or whatever it's called, only because it was intended for Disney Plus, but they put it on the Disney Channel. And it has a very mature, like spooky kind of theme to it that got me interested. And as for Nickelodeon, I don't watch nothing on Nickelodeon. Like I used to watch Power Rangers on Nickelodeon only because I grew up with Power Rangers. And I used to watch the Borough of Magical Things because that's a UK teen show, but it deals with actual witches and magic, and it's very mature and stuff like that. Other than that, I think I watched Are You Afraid of Dark, only just to see if it was as good as the original one. And so it's I think it's on Netflix. What did I watch? The Worst Witch. But I got into that for a completely wrong reason. Like I went on Wikipedia, right? And there's an actress, and she's from a show called The Midwife, and she left that show after the third season. And Called The Midwife is like an older, more mature medical drama type show. And so on Wikipedia, somebody lied and said she was gonna be on The Worst Witch. So I'm like, cool, like, I missed this actress so much, I'm gonna check it out. Turns out somebody lied on Wikipedia, and she's not even in the show. But then I end up watching the show and end up like loving it and stuff. And so, but back to this show. So because of that, and so because like adults, it's weird when they watch like a lot of teen stuff, and I don't understand why they do. But I understand if it's something as good as Just Add Magic, then I totally understand why they do. But when they watch like the gooberish type stuff, I just don't get that. Like it's a point in time in your life you have to just grow up, people. You just have to grow up. But to this show, yes, this show is awesome. This show is amazing. I love the way they use the elements of magic in this because it's a very low budget show, so they have to work around with what they have. And when they make things happen with magic, it's subtle psychological type stuff. And when they make it happen, it's so like appealing that you don't care if there's no magical CGI floating stuff in the air or nothing like that, Now, towards the third season, they had a bigger budget and they did start putting in the sparkly, magically, CGI-ish type stuff. And then, of course, in the fourth season, which kind of did rob it a little bit, but not really, because it was kind of like, it was in the third, it was much needed, you know what I'm saying? In the fourth, not so much. But the fourth is a good season. It's just not as good as the first three because it's a different cast and they do things differently there. But yeah, like their use of magic in this show, because it all comes from this magical cookbook. And when they do their magic, all it is them cooking food. So it's like you watching a cooking show, but they do everything in slow motion when they cook, when they like pour in their ingredients, when they stir, when they mash stuff together. It's all in slow motion, and they have this very heavenly type music in the background, and sometimes they'll put the recipe of the words over the screen, and it just has this magical feeling. And for the most part, all you see is the person's hand. So it's probably not even the girls. It's probably like a real like chef type person with really tiny hands, or a younger chef or something like that. But it's and then the way they like do it, they do it so perfectly. So that tells you right there, they probably got a professional to do it. And it's just the food that they make is like, man, it looks good. Like I want to make something like that. And some of the stuff they make, like you never think that, oh yeah, people actually mash these ingredients together and bake it in the oven or the stove and stir it together and do this. 'Cause like you go to the candy store and you see candy, you know how like people always assume, oh, the candy just looks that way. You know what I'm saying? It comes out looking that way. Like people never really think you have to actually cook it and mash it together and stuff. Same thing with like a lot of other like foods and stuff. Like people just never really think of that stuff. So it's kind of cool to see this and to learn about these ingredients and how to cook and measure and all this other stuff. And so then when the actual magic does happen, you have to wait for it. Like when they have to eat the food that they cook. And so then all of a sudden, instead of like this big hocus pocus of smoke and color and lights and fog and smoke and CGI stuff, it's psychological. Like in the first episode that I've already reviewed, but I haven't posted yet. Because what it is that they made shut 'em up shortcake. And so you eat it and it makes a person, the first person, like, well, anybody who eats it, the first person, oh, let's see, whoever eats it, they, what is it? They can't talk. And then something happened where it didn't necessarily backfire. It's like, it's because all that magic in the cookbook, there's riddles and stuff. And there's more to it than just the ingredients. And you have to read the riddles and stuff. And some magic has like a price you have to pay because some of the ingredients come from a certain ingredient family and they kind of a little mean and make things backfire. So when Hannah and Buddy, they ate the shortcake, they could not talk. And then when Darby ate it, she could not stop talking because that was the price to pay and everything. So, like, and I forget why she had to pay the price. It was something she did when she was cooking it. I can't remember. I think because she's the one who added the magical ingredient. Because not all the ingredients are magic. There's only like one or two, sometimes like that. And I think because she added the magical ingredient, that's why like she had to pay the price and everything. Because she made these other people eat this magic and it caused them to do stuff. And so all of a sudden, like in Darby, she's just like speed talking the whole time and she can't stop. And they have to like cover her mouth. They have to shove food in her mouth to make her stop talking. Like she cannot stop. And other people, they're just like talking and they're trying to make like words come out their mouth and they can't. And that's what really kind of got me interested in. But then they did like a second spell in the first episode because what is it? Darby ended up tripping when she was talking really fast. She got nervous and started back walking and stuff, walking backwards, and then she tripped and fell and hurt her knee and she couldn't try out for like the basketball tryouts. So after that, they found a recipe in the book that can like heal wounds and stuff, but there's a price you have to pay and everything. So when Darby ate that, her knee felt better, but because Kelly made her eat it, she had to pay the price. And or I think because she'd eat the second one. Sometimes it works that way. Whoever asked the ingredient, they didn't want to pay the price and stuff like that. That's right. So when that happened, all of a sudden Kelly's arm went limp, and it's the arm she writes with and does everything with. So when Kelly had to try out for basketball practice, she was trying to do everything she could with like one arm, and then Darby had to help her with the other arm, and it was just like a cute little montage and stuff. And it's like the cool psychological things that happen. I remember one time, like in another season, like there's this one dude, he made this like food, and if you eat it, the other people around you go to sleep. And you know, they're like all kind of like magical spells. Some do the same thing, but they're differently. And so like they can make you travel through time, they can make you go to sleep, they can make you hear other people's thoughts. They can make you see things that other people are seeing. They can make you appear to look like somebody else and everything. And it's just so fascinating. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'm not doing a series review. I'm doing like the season 1 review. So, season 1. Now, this show is based off of 2 books by an author by the name of Cindy Callahan. And she came out with, let's see, the first book in 2010. And they're YA young people novels. And so the first one was just called Just Add Magic. And then the second one came out in 2018 called Potions Problems. Now, the books are slightly different. Well, the show is different from the books, okay? Let's just put it that way. However, the first book does revolve around a lot of the elements that happens in the first season. The whole Buddy and Hannah can't talk because they ate the cake, and Darby can't stop talking. The girls finding the book in the attic. Let's see, Mama P, who's renamed in the book, Senora Perez. That's because, you know, Ida Perez is Mama P, so they just named her Mama P in the show. Her store is called something completely different in the book. Let's see what else. Because you can find these books online. You can find them on Google Books or Amazon, stuff like that. And let's see what else is different. So also in the book, more people can't talk because more of the adults ate the stuff. But then the show also follows the book towards the end when they find out Mama P isn't who she thinks they are and stuff like that. And they have to like break the spell on Kelly's aunt because Kelly's aunt, not her aunt, but her grandma, Kelly's grandmother, is under a magical curse and everything to where it makes her not be able to talk and makes her, she's self-aware in the head, but she acts like she's nutty because she ends up like acting very strangely, and people think she has dementia, but she doesn't. She just been spelled. And when Kelly and the others find this out, they try to like, you know, save her and stuff. And so that's pretty much like from the show, took from like the books and stuff, and how they tried to break the spell, and Ida tried to break her curse. However, the show goes into much more interesting detail. First thing, in the show, they explain the history of the older people in the show, the original cooks. And they explain their backstory and how they was once friends and how magic like corrupted them and stuff. And the same thing happened to the younger people with Kelly, Darby, and Hannah. Like, you know, magic corrupted them. In fact, in the book, it actually broke up their friendship for like a while. And that's how the show ends up doing every now and then, because Kelly has an obsession with magic. She is constantly cooking and thinks she can solve all her problems with magic. She becomes the same way Ida does in the show and stuff. But yeah, in the show, it goes into much greater detail with like Ida, Mrs. Silvers, and Kelly's grandmother. And like it tells their entire backstory of how they were friends and they became corrupted, and then what caused their breakup, and then the whole Chuck thing that never happened in the books. The whole Chuck revelation in the series was completely made up, and it was amazing. And the great thing about this show is they foreshadow so much. The Chuck reveal didn't happen until I think the 4th episode, and it was just like a photograph. I think the photograph was a different kid. He looks different than Chuck in the show. But so yeah. Anyway, they foreshadow so much stuff like the Morbium and like the keeper, the protector of the book, and the keeper lady and stuff, and like they foreshadow so much. And just like with Harry Potter, it all gets revealed later on in the series, and it's so amazing. And because you had those details of foreshadowing, you know certain things are about to happen and stuff. And the book just doesn't really do that. And then, of course, if the whole Chuck thing is made up from the show, then, of course, his sister. And, of course, the stuff that happens in the spin-off series in the 4th season entitled Magical City. And also all the stuff that happens in the 3rd season. And also the In-Betweeners, that's made up for the show, too, in the 2nd season. But we're not here to talk about the 2nd season right now. So let's get back to the 1st. Now, one thing that the book does that the show doesn't do is when the girls find the magical cookbook, for the most part, they don't realize it's truly magical towards the end of the book. A lot of people on Amazon comment sections say, forget the book, just read, or just watch the show. But when it comes to the second book, because the second book is so much differently, a lot of people recommend reading that one and stuff. And so when it comes to the first season and in the book, one difference is in the show, they don't have a magical book club. When they find the book in the attic in the book, they decide to have like, a magical book club and everything. It's their little secret. Also, Kelly is the narrator of the book and stuff. Also, the whole magic has a price thing to pay. That's something different in the book. They call it something, I think it's called like the laws of magic or the laws of price or something like that. I forget what it's called. But pretty much, yeah, it's just like, whoever adds that last ingredient or something like that, they have to pay like the magical like price and stuff like that for that certain magical family. Now, one of the things about this show that is really cool that the girls are very smart. However, they're too smart. One problem I do have with this show is that when they read like a riddle to like say a recipe, they don't always get it at first. It doesn't always come to them. And then all of a sudden, like after like a few seconds of thinking about it, or after they eat something, and then they realize, oh wait, I've solved the like riddle and everything. And it's kind of, it happens too fast and too quickly. Like these girls are way too smart and stuff. I mean, it's cool that they're able to figure out because they have to figure it out. But sometimes they're just a little too smart for their own good, and that kind of takes away from the series because it literally happens in within seconds of them not figuring it out. And so it just kind of weighs it down a little bit. Now, one of the things that's different about the book is, like I said, they have a magic like book club because that's what they call it. However, in the show, they just call it the book or the magic cookbook. But in the book, it's called the secret recipe book. Also, the whole paying a price thing, that's what they call it in the show. But in the book, it's actually called the law of returns. And it's basically like a payback and everything. And what it is, like I said before, is whoever's adds that special magic ingredient, they're kind of like cursed with bad luck. They have to pay that price. That's how the whole like pay the price thing works. And so sometimes it's just one girl that would do it, and sometimes all three of them will put it in at the same time. Not necessarily, but it does kind of happen. Now, in the book itself, now, okay, in the show, the cookbook is very old, very ancient. It's brown. It has like kind of like this trifecta thing of like a fork, a spoon, and a knife. And so, like, you actually can find this book on Amazon, like the actual recipe book, but a lot of people say it's crap. A lot of people say a lot of recipes are like incomplete and it's not really good to buy, but you can probably buy one of the blank pages and just write your own recipes in there. But hey, if you want to buy it, buy it. If you don't. So, but like in the show, like I said, it's an old brown book, and it looks like this. And it has these old pages, and there's a lot of handwritten recipes. Some are kind of, and it has like sometimes one has like a little glass mirror on one page, and it's kind of interesting. And the thing about the book is infinite. It does not end. Kelly found this out like in the second episode because she wanted to see like how far the book will go. And every time she kept flipping pages, more pages will come. Now, because it was low budget, they didn't have the money to CGI to like morph more pages in there. So they had to like use camera trickery and stuff. But this book literally never, ever ends. And it's beyond old. When they was reading one recipe, they came across a word they couldn't even like pronounce for the most part and didn't even know what it was. So they had to look it up on Wikipedia. Turns out that word came back from the Middle Ages. And so they realized this book is over 500 years old, but it's even older than like that. Now, in the actual novel book, from what I can tell online, it seems to be a bunch of handwritten recipes that are taped in the pages of a World Book Encyclopedia, Volume T. And so, like I said before, they call it a secret cooking club. However, Mama P Mama P in the book, even though she's still the same way she is in the show, they call her something different. Now, Mama P is Lyda Perez. She's a Hispanic lady, but in the show, she's half Asian, half Hispanic because the actress is like that. And they call her Mama P. And her recipe store is called Mama P's. Now, in the actual book, she is called Senora Perez, and her local store is called La Cocina. I'm probably saying that wrong. And so, like, that's one of the premises of the second book called Potions Problems. See, somebody has stolen the book and is using their recipes. And they realize they can't get ingredients from their local store, the La Cocina Mama P store, because it's getting closed down. And so they have to like figure out like, yo, what's going on? That's a little bit of the premise of the second season of the show. In the second season, the book, no, wait. Yeah, the second half of the second season, after the whole Chuck thing, the book does get stolen by a group of people, the In-Betweeners. And so, like I said, I'll get into that when I go into season 2. And so, and Chuck does end up stealing the book as well, and end up like copying the pages through some kind of like magical way. But hey, that's for season 2. And so like season 1, that came out in 2015, and the book came out in 2010. However, the second book came out in 2018, like I said, and the second season came out in 2016. The first half. The second half, where the In-Betweeners stole the book, that came out in 2018. So I'm not really sure what really came out first, because let's see. The second, okay, so yeah. It seems that the writer of the book took certain elements from the show and added it in her book, because the book didn't get published and come out until August of 2018, and the second half of the second season came out in January 2018. So, that happens and stuff. And, I don't blame her, because, the writer for Pretty Little Liars did the same thing. After the TV show came out, she started coming out with new books, and she incorporated a little bit here and there, but not really. And so season 3, that came out in 2019, and then the Mystery City season 4 spinoff, that came out in 2020. So the season 1 rundown, after going through all that like nice little information stuff. So like I said, if you just watch my first review of the first episode, I'm hoping to God I post that one before I post this video. If not, then let's do a quick little rundown. 3 girls, they're best friends, Kelly and Hannah and Darby. So they're cooking, and Buddy messes things up. He runs into the attic. They go up there to follow him. They find an old cookbook in their grandmother's stuff. And so they start cooking some of the stuff, but they realize some of the ingredients sound kind of funny, like Syndronian. That's a magical ingredient. They never heard of it. So they figured, hey, let's go down to Mama P's, because she has a bunch of ingredients. And then when they go there, they ask Jake, have you ever heard of this? And Mama P overhears them, and then she gives them what they need. And then Mama P asks kind of weird and stuff like that. So it kind of freaks them out. When it comes to Miss Silvers, they're kind of scared of her like every other kid in the neighborhood, because she's really mean. And Mrs. Silvers, it is revealed that she knows something about the cookbook too, as well as the grandmother. The grandmother, Kelly's grandmother, will not talk. She is unable to speak, and she acts a little crazy because of that. So her family thinks she has dementia, and they're trying to get her help, but they think it's an illness. So when Kelly wants to be nice and make her a cake, she makes a shum up shortcake. And let's see, Hannah added the magical ingredient, but made her pay a price. Hannah took a piece of the cake, and so did Buddy, and it caused him not to talk. The grandmother took some, and it reversed her cursed spell and made her talk, but she's only able to talk for a little bit. She told Kelly, trust your instincts, and something about like get rid of the book or something like that. And so after all that shenanigans happens, the spell is eventually broken, because see, some spells have like a time release. And other spells, you actually have to pay attention to the riddle and figure it out and do as the riddle says in order to break it. So, like, sometimes it's eating a bite of one food and then you have to eat the second bite to break the spell. Other times you have to learn like a moral lesson. That's one great thing about this show is that it teaches people moral lessons and stuff. And the time release spells are just fun because those are some of the funnest episodes. And so after Hannah blows her like basketball trials, which by the way, it's basketball in the show, but it's soccer in the book. And so this girl named Charlotte, and then so she wants to be captain, but then what Kelly does is that she cooks again, she heals Hannah's knee, no, Darby's knee, and then her arm goes limp. And then somehow she ends up making the captain of like the basketball team. But then she tells the coach, "Hey, look, I want Charlotte to have it," and then that breaks the spell and everything. So the girls realize once you learn your moral lesson, or once the time release thing, then the spell is broken. And then so Kelly comes to the realization. I can't talk. The realization that her grandma must be under a spell because her grandma's acting a little too strangely and stuff. And they want to know who cursed her, but they don't know. Throughout the show, we see that the girls are being spied on by crows. Those are Mrs. Silver's crows. Mrs. Silver's don't want nothing to do with the kids. And she doesn't want nothing to do with Kelly's grandmother or Ida. Or Mama P, I should say. And so Mama P shows up at Mrs. Silver's place. Now, earlier that day, Mrs. Silver's was mean to the girls. But then we see Mama P's all like, it's happening again. And then so Mrs. Silvers tells Mama P straight up, you leave those girls alone. It's like, whoa, so she's protecting these girls? I don't get it. She's so mean and grumpy and like she hates them and stuff. So like, what is going on? And that would really intrigued me towards the end. That kept me watching the rest of this series. And so Mama P is literally the villain of the first season, but it's not really what you think. See, she has her own motive to wanting this magic cookbook. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So it's in the next episode we find out that the book is infinite and everything, and the girls start cooking more because they realize in order to break that curse they have to cook more. Now Kelly, let's get into the little character profiles a little bit. Kelly is the main girl, the main focus of like pretty much the first season and even the third for the most part, and the entire series if you think about it. She's half Hispanic, I think she's half white. She has a family, father, mother, and a little brother, her grandmother. And she is the one who cooks the most, and she learns the most from cooking. She learns from Mama P. And Kelly is the type of person who becomes obsessed with the magic and obsessed with the cooking. She feels she can solve every problem with cooking. She's literally growing like an addiction to it, similar to how Mama P was back in the day. And so she loves her grandmother to death and she wants nothing more but to save her. And she will do anything it takes to save her grandmother, even to the point of like stop being friends with her best friends because just like in the books, in the TV show, the magic corrupts. And because of her obsession with it, she has a huge falling out with her friends and even her parents and stuff. But for the most part, she is a good girl and everything, and she wants to do right, but she just allows the magic to take over. Hannah is the smart one. She's also the coward one, and she's also the goody-goody two-shoes. She's the person who always plans ahead, and she's the person who always has to prep for everything. She always wants to study. She's very cautious about using magic. She does not want to use it whatsoever because she sees the ramifications that come with it. She always has to watch over Darby because Darby, I'll get to Darby a little bit later. And so her and Kelly end up having, for the most part, the most falling out because towards the end of the season, because Hannah is starting to suspect bad things about Mama P. Kelly don't want to hear about it. And so it's causing like a huge rift because Kelly's becoming very obsessed with the magic. And just like Hannah, her dad is very like prepared and and always by the book type thing. Now Hannah has a sister, a teenage sister, who's really mean to her at times. Sometimes she acts nice, but for the most part she is mean. And because Hannah's such a goody goody two shoes, she has a stuffed animal that she loves to death, and her sister will use it as bribery and punishment and stuff towards her, as we see in this one episode. Darby is the klutz. Darby is lazy. She constantly wants to eat. She loves grilled cheese. She is sloppy. She doesn't like doing her homework. She doesn't like being prepared for nothing. She's always late for stuff. And she's not very reliable. But when in a pinch, she does become like reliable when it comes to helping her friends. One interesting thing is that her and Hannah kind of gets into a little bit more. They're more like the duo because Kelly's always off on her own, doing her own thing. But for the most part, she is the one who is like, with Hannah. And as a result of that, like in one episode, they had truth truffles and everything because they wanted to know what Mama P knew about the magic book. Because Mama P was acting just a little too weird. And Mama P creeps them out because when Hannah hurt her knee, they needed a secret ingredient, and somehow Mama P knew what they needed, and she sent Jake over there with the magical ingredient. And they don't understand how Mama P knows this. So they suspect her. So they need some truth truffles. And Kelly mom ends up taking one. And when Kelly mom takes one, Kelly mom is brutal, man. Like, she's nice throughout the entire series, but when she's telling the truth, she is downright mean, and she does not have a filter. She lets you know if she doesn't like you, she don't like you. If your coffee tastes like mud, which Mama P's does, she lets her know. And it's hilarious because in that episode, her mom wanted to spend time with Kelly because she doesn't always get to, but Kelly is too busy with the girls and the magic cookbook. And so, everybody else doesn't know about the cookbook. One person does, and I'll get to him a little bit later. And so, she really wanted to like spend time with her, but she just, couldn't. So then she eats a truffle by mistake, and the girl's like, crap. And then, so her mom tells the truth about how like Kelly blew her off, and all she wanted to do was spend time with her. So Kelly spends time with her in that day, and her mom is just insulting people left and right. And then she also reveals that they're gonna send the grandmother to a home if they can't find out what's wrong with her and stuff. Kelly doesn't want this, and then she has to double her efforts of, finding like a cure for grandmother and breaking that curse. But back to Hannah and Darby. See, what was it? Darby ate one because she wanted to know how long the spell will last. This isn't like the first spell. This is a time release spell, and they have no idea how long it will last. And they read the riddle, but they couldn't figure it out. So, being impulsive, Darby eats a truth truffle. And so she's just laying it into Hannah, talking about how like tightly wound up Hannah is and how she's always prepared and how she doesn't know how to have fun and all this other stuff. It gets on Hannah's nerves to where Darby pressures her to eat a truffle. And she does. This causes major problems between those two because Hannah lays it back into her, talking about how lazy she is and how unreliable she is and how she always has to like follow her and everything and make sure she doesn't mess up. And then so Darby's all like, well, if you always have to watch behind me and don't like doing this and always thinking I'm this and that, now why are you even friends with me? And they started to think, wait a minute, it's because of Kelly. It's because of Kelly they're friends. Now, this comes back, I think, in the second half of the second season. We see a flashback of how they became friends. Because the girls lose their complete memories of how they became friends. And so, then they realized, if it wasn't for Kelly, they wouldn't even be friends and they wouldn't be better people. And Hannah and Darby make each other better because they're so opposite. So they end up forgiving each other. And so, and that was really touching, you know what I'm saying? Because they both see they have flaws, but they won't really admit to it. But then it's the magic that helped them see that. And it's, so Darby, being the hungry person she is, she wants another truffle. But then Hannah tells you can't eat one. And Darby's all like, well, I ate one and I'm over here telling the truth. So if I eat two, what's it going to do? Make me tell even more truth? And then they realize, oh, wait, that's how you break the spell. Because when they read the riddle, you eat one and then you honor the spell. You eat the second one and then you get off the spell. So that's how the time release thing works for that one and stuff. No, wait, that's not a time release spell. My bad. It's that other one. Ooh, I gotta get into that episode. That's a funny episode. But no, this isn't a time release spell. My bad. You gotta remember, I'm relying on memory over here. And I watched this years ago. So, this is one of those spells that where you eat something once and you have to eat it a second time to break it. So, now, let's get into that funny episode. Oh no, wait, let's go back to Mama P and the truth stuff. So when they finally figure out how to break the spell, they go find Kelly, who's at Mama P's. And they try to get her mom to eat the second one, but the mom doesn't want to eat one because the truth truffles are really nasty. See, these magical ingredients, they don't taste very well. So it kind of makes you not always want to eat something a second time. And so, like, they have to, like, trick her into eating one, and so they do. And then they see Mama P. So then they're like, oh, Mama P, do you want a truth truffle and everything? And Mama P's just, like, playing it off. She's like, sure. And then so after she eats one, you hear the music playing and stuff. And then, like, so they're getting ready to ask her a question. But she stops them, and then she eats a second. She outsmarted them. So now they know for a fact Mama P knows more than she's letting on, and that she's a very smart woman who's 2 steps ahead of them. And so now they're very cautious of her, but they still have to go back and forth for magical ingredients. That's the only place they can, for now, that they can get them. Until, now again, a little bit, let's put a pin in that for later. Let's get into that funny episode. Now, there is a time release type spell, like I said before. And the girls do put themselves under one. I forget exactly why they put themselves underneath it, but it has to pretty much do with them having to be smarter than what they are. So I think they were trying to figure out something. Oh, they were trying to figure out how to help Kelly's grandmother, so they needed to be smarter. So they found the spell. Now, here's one interesting thing about the cookbook. Sometimes if they need something really bad, they'll open up the book and all of a sudden the page that shows up is something they need. Some other times the book will literally be closed. It will open itself up and pages will flip to what they need. Like the book is literally almost like alive in a sense. And so they make this spell with a time release thing. And so they don't know how much time they have before the spell breaks because they've never done this before. So they don't know about like a pinch or like a teaspoon or a tablespoon. So they just put in like a teaspoon of like that time magical ingredient. And so next thing you know, they all become super smart to the point where it backfires on them. That's one of the things about the magic. It's more than just paying a price from adding the magical ingredient. Sometimes the magic overdoes it and it causes you to screw up in your everyday life. When the girls are at school, they will not stop being smart. Kelly is constantly writing down tons of equations on sheets of paper to the point where she runs out of paper and she starts writing them on the windows, and it's disrupting the class and it's pissing off her teacher. So she ends up getting detention. Hannah will not stop being like verbally smart. She is constantly showing off and like telling people you're wrong and this is exactly how this happened back in the history days and blah 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 blah. So it gets her in trouble with her teacher because she's mouthing off and being super smart and will not shut up. So she gets detention. Darby, on the other hand, she ends up learning Spanish and she doesn't even know Spanish. And then she talks to like this foreign exchange student who's also Spanish. This foreign exchange student, she plays Molly on Marvel's Runaways. So I'm all like, oh, hey, it's what's her name? And so like, she's constantly talking Spanish to this girl. The girl doesn't know English. The girl is supposed to learn English. That's why she's here in America. And so every time the teacher talks, Darby translates in Spanish. This is pissing the teacher off. She's like, look, this girl is supposed to learn English and you're disrupting my class. You need to stop talking. Darby decides to get smart and says something really smart and rude in Spanish. And the teachers was all like, what is it? The teacher says, I'm not lonely. I only have 3 cats, and I do speak Spanish. And you have detention. So all 3 girls like get detention. And it's funny. And while they're in detention, they're still under like the spell and everything. And so Hannah is all like, I'm gonna escape through like the ventilation system and stuff. And as they're like, as she's trying to like go through that, I think the girls knock over a book. They knock over a yearbook from the school. And when they look in the yearbook, they see a picture of Kelly's grandmother. Now, there's one thing I left out. In the first episode, the girls find like a picture of Kelly's grandmother inside the cookbook. This is a regular photograph, and there's 2 girls next to her. And they don't know who these 2 girls are. They've never seen them before. And so because it's like literally about like 50 years ago, you know what I'm saying? So when they're in the school and in the yearbook, of course the yearbook has people's names underneath it. And these 3 girls were known as the 3 amigos. They were like all 3 best friends. And when they know one of them's Kelly's grandmother, they read the names of the other 2, and they could not believe it's Mama P and Mrs. Silvers. That is one reason why they did the whole truth truffle thing in the next episode. They had to find out what Mama P knows and stuff, because Mama P is not telling them everything. And of course, Miss Silvers doesn't say nothing to them because she just acts like she hates everything and hates everybody. And so, like, now the girls have like a new mystery to figure out. And it's really interesting because Magic, even though it messed them up and got them all detention, and the detention was in the library putting books away, if they never did that, they would never figure out who the older ladies were and stuff in the picture with the grandmother. I love how this show is written. Then all of a sudden the spell breaks and they realize that, you know, how long that spell lasted by adding like a teaspoon and stuff. Now, there's a really interesting and funny episode that involves a dog. I think it's episode 4. And so like Kelly is babysitting his dog at this lady's house at the pool, and the girls show up and they have like a cute little montage and stuff. And I love the music that's playing. There are 3 different types of music that plays on this show. One is the cookie music. That's very heavenly, very pleasant, very nice. Then there's the dramatic, scary music that's like dun, 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 like that, and it lets you know something bad's gonna happen. Then there's the cute montage music, where it's like a nice melody played by people whistling, and I love it. I don't know what it's called or what, but I can only find it on this show, and it's just so nice to hear. It's in the dog episode. And so the dog ends up getting lost because Darby being Darby, she lets the door open and stuff. And so they have to find the dog. And when they're like walking around town, what is it? Darby ends up seeing the dog run into Mrs. Silver's garden. So she doesn't want to go there because she's scared of this lady. So she goes in, she's looking for the dog, but she trips over this big old root plant thing. A plant that she's never seen before. It's a magical plant that only glows once in a blue moon, and blue moons are very rare. And so, like, what is it? Mrs. Silver sees her and scares the bejesus out of her when she leaves her flip-flop and everything. So then they figure, okay, they can't find him that way, they need to find him the magical way. And so then they find a spell that brings back lost things. Well, this spell does more than what they want. It brings to them everything that's ever been lost in the whole town. And they recognize a lot of this stuff. And some of these things are animals. So they have to go, they figure, okay, in order to break this spell, we have to return everything that's been lost. So they go and it's a nice little montage and they're returning everything, right? This is the episode where we see Hannah's sister, her mean sister. Because Hannah's sister said that Hannah stole her headphones and won't give them back. And Hannah's like, I didn't do it. But it ended up being lost. So that's when she took the Hannah's stuffed animal as hostage and everything. And so they returned everything. And then they go back to the backyard and the dog is still not there. They go back the next day and there's like more stuff in the backyard they have to return. And they're just like, they don't understand. They returned everything. Why isn't the spell broken and the dog didn't come back? And then so during this whole time, the dog is having the cutest montage ever. The dog is like running around, the dog is swimming, the dog is like skateboarding with a group of boys. The dog is having a great time in this episode. And so like they return everything again. And the dog is still not there. And they don't understand. They returned everything, so they don't understand what's really going on. Now, in this is some foreshadowing. One of the girls returns a baseball back to this old man, and he's very thrilled with having this. When he was a little kid, he hit a home run and everything. And so this old man becomes very important later on in this season and in next season. It's a nice little foreshadowing. I love this show. And so Hannah confesses, not Hannah, but Darby confesses one thing has not been returned, and she's scared to return it because it belongs to Mrs. Silvers. So they figured, look, in order to do it, to get this doll back, they have to go to her and return it and apologize and stuff. Now, see, one reason why they're going to apologize is because in order to make this spell, they needed an ingredient. Mama P don't have it. And when they look at it in the cookbook, Darby realizes, oh, hey, it's that plant I tripped over. Miss Silvers has it. So in the middle of the night, oh, God, I love this show. I love the way they dressed. Hannah and Kelly, they dress all in black or black hoodies to sneak around at night, as one is supposed to do, but not that Darby. Darby still has her beach clothes on, brightly colored too. And so Mrs. Silver, she's in the house playing her music, and they're like, okay, look, we're good until she stops playing her music. She stops playing her music. Why? Because the crows see her and they alert her and stuff. And so they steal her plant that's really weird looking, and she sees them through the window. So that's how they had to make that spell in order for lost things to come back. So next thing you know, when they returned, so see, Mrs. Silvers lost like a little wrist bracelet thing, and it had like some things on there. And one of the things was like a tiny little jar with this tiny little black seed thing in there. And Mrs. Silvers is so thrilled to have this. And they apologize for stealing the plant. Miss Silvers understands why they did it, but she still doesn't like that they stole. And they all apologize. And we start to see Mrs. Silvers isn't as mean as people think she is, but she still is mean. And she gives Darby back the flip-flop. They go back to the backyard, and there's the dog. And now everything is cool. But something interesting happens in the last part of this episode. We see Mama P. She's on a bench, like a little bus stop bench, and she eats something that she's cooked. It's like some purple candy mess. And then she's at a sign that says, "You're now leaving Saffron Springs," or Saffron Falls, or whatever the city is called. And as she's trying to walk away, all of a sudden this big gust of wind blows her back, and it's like hurricane type wind. If you know what hurricanes like, and you watch those meteorologists, and you watch those them weather people outside and everything during the storms, the winds blowing them back and everything, that's how Mama P is right now. So that's how magic happens in this show. It's very subtle, it's very interesting, and it's very practical. It's also practical when the stuff started returning to Kelly. Stuff literally started to follow her. Bikes, balls, skateboards, stuff like that. So Mama P is trying her best to leave the city, but she can't for some reason. And we don't know why at that time. And then here comes Mrs. Silvers with a big old smile on her face. And Mama P is like pissed. She's like, "Are you here to gloat?" And Mrs. Silver's like, "Yup." But then she also tells her, just to let you know, the girls did a spell and they brought back something I lost, my morbium seed. And Mama P has like a very shocked look on her face, and also a worried look. And Mrs. Silvers has like a big old smile, and so we know something's up with this seed, but we don't know exactly what until later on in the season. Now, in one episode, during the Truth Truffle episode that I forgot to mention, when Jake came over to borrow like some type of cooking tool, Hannah and Darby let it slip that they have a magic cookbook and they're under a spell. He doesn't believe them. So when he's talking to like Kelly and stuff, Kelly's all like, oh, they're just making stuff up. Mama Pete overhears this and he tells her what they told them and where they hide their cookbook and stuff. Well, Mama P being Mama P, she ends up getting inside their house when she makes a delivery stop of food. And when the dad's away to get the money, she runs into the house and she steals the cookbook in its hiding place. The girls find out the book is missing and they are freaking out in the next episode. But in the end of this episode, when Mama P opens the book and she sees all the recipes, she's happy. But then all of a sudden, all of the recipes disappear. The pages go blank. It will not work for her. And we don't know why it won't work for her until much later. This is the reason why it won't work for her, because she is no longer the protector of the book. Only the protector of the books can use the book and all this other stuff. However, in later seasons, this kind of gets there's a continuity error because other people end up using the book and they're not supposed to use the book. And so, and even people who aren't even like former protectors are able to use the book, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But yeah, just in the first season, that's kind of like the rules and stuff, is that only the protectors can use the book. So she is furious and stuff. And so in the next episode, they realize that, you know, Mama P must have like the book. I think like they must realize it. So they trying to get Jake to believe in magic. I haven't gotten to Jake yet. So let's get into Jake. Jake, he's a guy. He's their friend. He's pretty much the only friend in the entire series. Like they do have other friends now and then, but he's the one who's like a main character who comes back and forth. He works with Mama P. He can really cook and he wants to have his own business. So he buys like a little bike with a little warmer thing on there to keep his food. And he's like a delivery food person on a bike. And he's this really bright person, but he's one of the type of people who's kind of like, he doesn't want nothing to do with magic once he finds out. And so he tries to lure himself, like he tries to like stay away from it as much as possible, unless it's something he really, really needs, like when he's sick and he gets Darby to make him like some magical soup, which he thinks is magical, but it's not. She totally like just gave him placebo and everything. And so like, he's their friend who helps them out in a pinch. When they need ingredients and they can't get into Mama P's, he gives them for them. Him and Mama P have a rocky relationship. He likes her, but then he doesn't when he finds out she does something at the end of this season. And so, like, they need him to believe in magic, but he doesn't want to believe in. So, of course, they cook a spell. And then the spell doesn't necessarily do what it does what they wanted to do, but it's not enough for him to, like, believe in it. So they had to cook a bigger spell. Then he believes in magic. And so, and then he realized that Mama P did steal the book. When he goes into her office and he searches around, he finds out she stole the book. After she told him, like, you know, she would never do nothing like that, blah, blah, stuff like that. So he's like irate and he kind of wants to quit after that, but they tell him no, because they need him, kind of be like a little mole type thing, and to get some ingredients and type stuff. Being Mama P, she overhears all this stuff. Anyway, he now believes in magic. And he helps steal the cookbook back and gives it to the girls and stuff. So at some point in time, Mama P decides she's gonna confess to like the girls about what's going on, but she lies, of course. She doesn't tell the full truth. She makes it seem like Mrs. Silvers is like evil. And so like, because of that, she gains the girls' trust. And she especially gains Kelly's trust. So the girls know they need to get better at cooking. Kelly decides she's going to get a cooking lesson with Mama P. Mama P, whoa, she teaches this girl everything. And she does it in a way that really frustrates Kelly. Every little mistake Kelly makes, she makes her do it over again like a drill sergeant. And she teaches Kelly the importance of how to measure. Too much and you will screw up the spell. Too little and it won't work. And you have to have the right ingredients. And then she teaches also Kelly the importance of the magical families and why these magical families back in the day didn't get along. And that's why some of their spells counteract another one and stuff. Now there's a scene where the grandmother's in the attic and she's rattling through a bunch of her old boxes, and the family doesn't understand why she's doing that. Like, what is it could she be after? And so, like, Kelly and the girls, they go up there and they see it's a bunch of like older stuff, like of the grandma's, her old jacket from the 50s, like a movie ticket. And then they see like a picture of a boy, and they don't know who that is. That's Chuck. We'll get to him in the second season. Oh, actually, we'll get to him towards the end of the first. I review that. So anyway, then they found like a box, and in this box, it has the symbols of the Magic Cookbook, and inside are tons of magical ingredients. And the girls are like, great, now we no longer have to go to Mama P's and stuff. And so now the girls are starting to become like little detectives, and they have their own little clue board and stuff like that. I love this show. But then we see like a flashback. We see Mama Quinn, Grandma Quinn, that's Kelly's grandmother, go to Mrs. Silver's place. And Mrs. Silver doesn't want nothing to do with her. She just wants her to leave. And she tells her that, it's happening again and stuff like that, that the book has returned. And Mrs. Silver doesn't understand how the book returned, because she's all like, I thought you got rid of that thing years ago. And she's all like, I did, and it came back and everything. And so, like, then she tells her, look, I need your help. And she's all like, I'll never help you after what you did. And then Grandma Quinn is just kind of like, please, I don't want my granddaughter to go through what we went through. And the book is coming for her and stuff. Because every time she keeps trying to get rid of this book, it keeps coming back. So it's not coming back for the older ladies. It's coming back for Kelly and whoever Kelly's two best friends are. And so the Mrs. Silver decides to help her. So she gives her the box with the magical ingredients in there. So now that Jake's on board, which took him a very long time to be part of their team, because when the book went missing, the girls revealed that they told Jake where the book was hidden. So when Kelly and the girls went to him, they all like, did you steal my cookbook? So he was pissed. So they had to prove to him that, magic exists and everything. So it took like 3 whole spells until he can finally realize that, hey, magic really works and everything. And that was such a hilarious episode because the spells kept backfiring. Like, Kelly took like the first one and like it made her very enthusiastic towards Hannah. And then the second one, it made Hannah start singing, where she blew her like the bait thing of why music is so important. And then the third one, Kelly, everything was like what was it? Everybody was attracted to Jake, but they were repulsed by Kelly. Now see, there's one thing I did leave out. Since Mama P had the book, you're wondering, how did they were able to cook, because they don't memorize the spells. They didn't do what the older people did and write the spells down or take pictures and stuff. See, remember the dog episode that went lost and everything that was lost was found? There were 3 pages that were ripped out of the book. Now, remember that, because it's very important for much later. And so, like, when the spell was cast and everything got found, the 3 pages mysteriously came back in Kelly's window and room and stuff. So she taped them up on her little clue board. So they had like some recipes and they had their ingredients, and that's how they was able to make them 3 spells. Once they was able to prove it to Jake, he stole the book from Mama P. She realized something was up, because like I said, she didn't necessarily spy on him, she just knew something was up. And then she saw he realized that he had stolen his book back, but she let him do it because she has a plan in mind. And so, like, when Jake finds out, he's pissed at Mama P. He thinks she's like an evil woman and stuff. And so when he's going through the book, because somehow he's able to look through the books and see the words, but when Mama P tries to use it, she can't. It's probably part of her curse as well and stuff. But anyway, so Jake is like really happy about magic, which is ironic because later on in the series he don't want nothing to do with it. But like the girls tell me, no, we can only use it for good, and you can't just like exploit it, and sometimes things backfire and like stuff like that. So they now wonder if they can trust Mama P. So they need like a spell to figure out if she's on the up and up. So they find like a mind reading spell, And so they go to Mama P, and of course Mama P is always 2 steps ahead, and she tricks them because she knows they use that spell because she gave them certain type of oil for the ingredient, like peppermint oil and stuff, and make some peppermint candy. And so like she knew what they was making, so she tricked them, saying stuff in her head. Now, what's really interesting is that they used this to read Grandma Quinn's mind, and they were not able to because her mind is so jumbled. It's like all her thoughts are like combining into one. They're just like a jumbled mess. But then they was able to get one message out talking about I'm still in here, Kelly. So Kelly is desperately trying to like figure out what happened and who cursed her mom, not mom but grandma and stuff. And so in the next episode, so in the next episode, like the girl can see Hannah, not Hannah, but Darby is acting like really weird and stuff, and they don't understand why. And then the book like flips a couple of pages and shows them why. It shows my birthday cake, and they're like, "Oh crap, it's like her birthday," and they forgot. So they throw her a surprise birthday party. They send her off with Jake to distract Mama P and like investigate her and stuff because Darby loves like mysteries and crimes. That comes into big play during the second half of like the second season. And so like, as they're there, they're like playing for her birthday party and stuff. And they're baking her all her favorite stuff. 2 different types of cake, a regular cake, a bunsen cake, a birthday cake, and some chocolate chip cookies. But they realize they can't find no chocolate chips. But then they find some up in the cabinet. And they don't realize it's them same chocolate chips that Mama P gave them. So they're magical. And they put the whole thing in there. So, yeah. Needless to say, in this episode, Kelly, Hannah, Kelly's mom, and Kelly dad all think they're 6 years old. Oh, boy. Oh, no, wait. I think it takes them back 10 years. So they're about, no, I think it knocks them back 10 years. So Kelly and them think they're 6 years old, and the parents, they think they're about in their 20s or teens, something like that. But anyway, they think they're all young. It's a pretty hilarious episode. Like, the Kelly and Hannah actress do an amazing job acting like little kids. So they all take Hannah to like the this type of Chuck E. Cheese type place, and they're just having like a great old time, like going through that stuff. And but then not Hannah, but Darby starts to realize that like they're acting kind of strange. She don't understand why they're still acting weird. She just thought they wanted to have fun at that like Chuck E. Cheese place, but then she realized they're under a spell. And with her being so not so bright, she has no idea how to fix it. So, she asked Jake when Jake was stealing the book, he knocked over the wall, and the wall has like a hidden compartment, and there's like a hidden pantry full of like magical spices, and it's very beautiful. It's lit with this purple light and a skylight with the symbols of the book, and it's very beautiful too. And so like he tells them. And so Darby knows in order to fix this thing, she has to like go and get some magic spells and stuff. So she sneaks into Mama P's, but the girls end up following her. Boy, no matter how many times I watch this, I forget the girls sneak up behind her and I hide behind the table. Like Darby wasn't the only person who like jumped and stuff. So like, they go in there and they look for the stuff, but then Mama P comes in and then it ends. But then in the next episode, Mama P straight up lies to the girls, tells them that it's Mrs. Silvers who's the evil one, and she cursed her. That's why she can't leave the city. Now that part is true. Miss Silvers did curse Ida, Mama P, but Mama P is not telling the full truth. And so they wonder if she could have been the one who spelled the grandma. But Mama P doesn't think like Gina will do something that like dastardly, but then she explains to them how they got the cookbook. And so what happened was the flashback. We see like the 3 older ladies as they're teenagers, and they're walking in the woods because they got lost from like they were either camping or on a school field trip, and they got lost from the class. And so all of a sudden this woman appears like completely out of nowhere. She is known as the Traveler. I called her the keeper by mistake, but yeah, she's the traveler. She is the one who ends up giving the book to like the new. Sometimes she ends up, well, okay, sometimes she ends up giving the book to the new protectors, and sometimes she doesn't. But yeah, she ended up giving it to those three, and she explained to them that this book is over 1,000 years old, and like it holds some of the greatest magical secrets and all that other stuff, and it's yours to do like whatever you want to with it. And so basically, they are all like, so this is a curse that the grandma's under, and they have to find some kind of way to break it. Now, when they was under the mind reading thing, Darby eavesdropped on her father, and he lost his job. So she's trying to help him get like a new job and stuff. And so I forget what they was cooking and why, but Mama P gave them something, and it's very rare, so it's very hard to come by. And I can't remember why they was making it or what exactly they was making, but they was making something. And so Kelly was like really adamant about making it. And then when Darby found out that her dad got like a job interview, or she was like really excited, and she knocked over some ingredients in the concoction, and they weren't supposed to go in there. So Kelly is like fuming, pissed off because she ruined something for her grandma. And so, Darby's trying to like explain and say she's sorry, but Kelly's not having it. And Hannah is not making things better, talking about the only reason why this happened because you don't pay attention to nothing. So it caused a major blowout to where they literally almost stopped talking to each other. But then like Darby kept telling her like how, I understand like this is for like your grandma because that's literally the only thing you ever talk about. It's like Kelly's main focus is just helping her grandma, and she's not really paying attention to the girl's needs. Like when Hannah was trying to get the music kept at like their school, because it was a debate, you either keep robotics or you keep music. And so Kelly didn't want to help her with that because all she could think about is magic and her grandma. So it does happen. So the magic is causing problems in their friendship, and that's nice to see in a kids show because it's not all just smiles and games. Like this is a very deep emotional show that gets dark every now and then, and and stuff like that. This is what kids really need. All that gooberish, like slappy happy stuff. That's just like all a facade. And so next thing you know, they end up forgiving each other. But the next thing you know, Grandma Quinn comes in and she's like talking fine. And at first they don't even pick up on it. They're just like talking to her back. But then they'll kind of like, whoa, why are you normal all of a sudden? And so Grandma Quinn tells them like she had some of whatever Darby spilt on the floor. And so she's talking to them, but they can see she's starting to slip back into her curse. And they asked her straight up, who cursed you? And she couldn't even answer because she went back into her curse state. And so they thought, okay, well, they'll just get more of what Darby spilt. But they can't because the dad saw it and cleaned it up and everything. And she and Kelly were mad at her daddy boy. And of course, they can't recreate it because they don't know what Darby necessarily spilt in there. And that one of the things that she spilled, they can't get no more of that. That's like all gone and stuff. And so in that one episode where like Mama P teaches Kelly like how to cook and how to measure and all this other stuff, she also, like I said before, teaches them about the magical like spices in their families. These families are interesting. Never once in this series does it ever explain who these people were or how they became magically inclined. Like, that's something I've always been curious about, but they never once ever explained these people. It's like one of the biggest mysteries. In one way, it's kind of okay, kind of like the bored queen. It's kind of like we don't know how she became the way she did, or how she survives all the time, or like is there like a new one, or is it the same one? But it's kind of like one of those things where you want to explain, but it's best just to leave it alone. But it is very curious. And so Kelly's like really learning and stuff. And so Mama P traps her in the pantry and tells her, or traps her in the back of the kitchen room and tells her, like, I taught you everything. Now you gotta figure your way out. Which that is some kind of way. That is a way of learning. Like you can learn something and watch something, but you have to experience it to truly learn. Like, I remember when I was in college, my friends took me swing dancing of all things. Yeah. So like instead of taking me to the club, they took me to like swing dancing. And so I watched everybody swing. I'm like, I can figure out those moves. I'm like watching everybody's feet movements and stuff, so I should be able to pick that up. Soon as I tried it, boy, I could not learn whatsoever. So I basically just sat down that whole time. And so Kelly learns that, there are all kind of magical ingredients in the families for certain different things. There are magic families that are for like intelligence. There are some that are for emotion. There are some that are physical. And and so one thing about these families, like I said before, they don't really like being like next to each other and stuff. Certain things, like say like the emotional or say like the physical spell ingredients. They don't like being next to the intelligent ones and stuff. And it's so cool because they start like rattling next to each other. They don't want to be next to each other. Also, when Kelly was inside the pantry, she sees a picture of Chuck. And when Mama P sees the picture, she's very sad by it and she touches the picture. And so it's like there's a flashback of Grandma Quinn and Mama P. They show up at a restaurant, and it was like a year ago, and they still hate each other because they haven't been friends since they were teenagers. No, wait, they haven't been friends since they were like young adults and stuff. Because yeah, you'll see in the third season, they had it out when they were teenagers, but when they became young adults, they really had it out. And so 50 years ago, something happened. And every year they meet in this one restaurant and they just kind of have like an anniversary. They hate each other. And, they tell, those two told each other, they'll never miss like a reunion, even though they really can't stand each other. So it's like this big mystery, like what's going on and who is this dude, Chuck, you know what I'm saying? And why do they always get sad when they always see like his picture and stuff? So at some point in time, when Mama P's about to close up, there go Gina spying on her through the window, and Mama P's her little snooty, like rude self is all like, oh, like Kelly, she has the touch, she has like the gift, and I'm gonna break my curse and everything like that. And then Mrs. Silvers is all like, I told you leave them girls alone. Don't make me have to do to Kelly what I did to you. And we all know Gina, Miss Silver, she cursed Mama P. So it's kind of like, whoa, is she gonna curse Kelly? Because with this woman, you don't really know like how she is, because like one minute she's really mean, and then next minute she does something nice, like donate a piano to Hannah's music school. Because apparently what happened was Hannah finds out that Mrs. Silvers used to play piano, but for some bizarre reason, she just automatically stopped. And, she hasn't played since. And there is a reason for that. See, remember I said Mama P wasn't like explaining everything? After Miss Silvers cursed Mama P cursed her. And apparently, she can play music all she wants, but she can't play music in front of anybody else. So nobody can hear her music. It literally just goes like mute. And music was her greatest gift. She loved music to death. And the fact that she couldn't even play, not even at Carnegie Hall anymore, it devastated her. Now, one funny thing about Miss Silvers is like her crows. Like the crows kind of disappear after the first season, and they don't show up again, I think, until like the third in the alternate future. But anyway, so like Miss Silvers is in her garden. She's not even looking around. She's just attending to her garden, and the crow makes like a crowing noise. And now the girls, they decided to sneak up by her fence because they had the peppermint and they was gonna listen to her thoughts because they just wanted to hear them and stuff. And Mrs. Silvers is all like, girls, don't you dare read my mind and stuff. And they just take off running. And then she's like, she calls them a bunch of like amateurs and everything. I love that one. This show is just so well written. Like, it amazes me how other shows, especially like adult shows, are written terribly. Titans, Riverdale, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Pretty Little Liars, those are all written so badly. Like, I swear to God. So after the girls discover what Morbium's shadow root is, they know that Miss Silvers has it because Darby gave it back to her not really knowing what it was. So now they have to hatch a scheme to get it back. So they need to sneak inside her place. And since she gives like music lessons, like piano lessons and stuff, that's what they're gonna do. So they send in Hannah to go and retrieve it. Now, I did make a tiny bit of a mistake when I said Mrs. Silvers can't perform in front of anybody. Technically, she can, but only inside her house. She can only play music inside her house. If she tries to play music any place else outside her house, no matter who's around, she just can't play. Even if she's by herself, she can't play. That is her curse. So in that episode, Hannah tries her best to, like, find the thing. When she says she wants to go to the restroom, she's searching around her house, but when she opens the door, a crow is inside one of the rooms, and it alerts Mrs. Silvers. So she gets kicked out. Also during this episode, Darby has to do like a diorama, and Kelly being Kelly, she's trying to figure out a way to like save her grandma, but Buddy keeps kind of interrupting that. So they find a spell to redo that day. So it's kind of like a Groundhog movie episode where they constantly keep going back and redoing that same day. After a couple of attempts, Hannah is able to find the little wrist bracelet thing that has the seed in it, but the seed is now missing. Something else Hannah finds in that room. She finds the picture of Chuck, not knowing who he is. So she takes a picture of it, but she also finds all these like newspaper articles of bad things happening to people around the city. So she takes pictures of it. And so when she takes it back to the girls and Mama P's all like, oh, you found Gina's victim list. Put a pin in that for now. Now, in that episode, it's a really touching scene between Buddy and Kelly. See, all he wants to do is spend time with Kelly like he used to. But ever since she started cooking and started doing the magic stuff, she doesn't do anything else but that. And he gets really sad and upset. And so he tells her, like, you're always cooking, but you no longer cook for me. You no longer play with me. And she comes to the realization after, like, redoing the day over and over is that, like, she really doesn't spend no time with him or any other member of her family and stuff. And so, like, she makes time and effort just to, like, hang out with him. That's really all he wants and stuff like that. So it was, like, a really sweet, nice moment. It's nice when this show has, like, those family caring moments other than just, like, the magic and all the spooky stuff that's happening. This whole Chuck revelation is, like, slowly building towards the end of this season to prepare us for, like, the next season. So, when the girls are inside the pantry with Mama P, they see the picture once again of Chuck and they ask him about it. And they ask her about him. And she doesn't want to say. All she just says that he's a friend and this and that. And like Gina did not make him disappear or do anything wrong to him or nothing like that. But the girls know Mama P isn't telling the full truth. So they need answers, and they need answers bad. So they just start researching him and stuff like that and reading the articles. And so, like, as they're reading one of the articles, they see a name. It's the guy that Kelly returned the baseball to. See? I told you he'll come back up. And so they make plans to, like, meet with him. However, they all can't go. See, Jake comes in, like I told you before, feeling sick. And he wants some magical soup or magical something to make him feel better. And so the girls all like, no, we ain't gonna give you no magic, nothing, because there's always a price for magic. And it's kind of selfish. Like, this dude helps them out like an extreme lot, and he makes a point that he helps them out extreme lot, and talking about how like he breaks into places and steal things and go on his permanent record. that help them out, but they won't help him out when it comes to magic stuff. And not only that, but it's like, um, what is it? So like in one episode I didn't mention because it wasn't really that big of an deal, but it was like Darby wanted to meet this famous author. She's kind of like J.K. Rowling of like that universe, and so like the last book hadn't come out yet, and she really wanted it to come out. And so, like, this author doesn't talk to her fans, so they make a spell where they become best friends with her. And of course, it backfires and stuff. So they were willing to do that to be selfish, but they won't help him out to be sick. So Darby helps him out with his job. Um, Kelly finds this type of soup that can make you relive a person's memory. And Hannah decides she's going to talk to the old dude about the Chuck thing. In these memories, Kelly realizes just how rude she is to people, especially like her grandma, when her grandma just wants to spend time with her and stuff. But she can't find out who cursed her grandma. But she does see Mrs. Silvers giving her the box of like magical ingredients. So she knows Miss Silvers has something to do with it, but she's not quite sure what. This spell backfires big time because it causes you to relive somebody else's memory, but it causes you to forget your own. And Kelly forgets to do certain things that she's supposed to do that day. And Hannah, when they go to her house, it's like late at night, and Kelly literally hasn't done nothing because she keeps forgetting so much. She forgot Jake was sick. She forgot to meet Hannah, all this other stuff. So Hannah literally throws away like the soup. This pisses Kelly off. See, it's always Hannah has to be the responsible one and is willing to like yank magic away from a person. But what is it? When it comes to Hannah, she discovers that Chuck was a boy about 50 years ago. He was a teenager, bit of a rebel, had no parents, and he would always like get into trouble, stuff like that. And he was dating Mrs. Silvers at that time. But he really liked, what's her name? Kelly's grandmother. And so they wonder now, would Mrs. Silvers be willing to like curse Becky's grandmother after like 50 years of revenge? But they just don't know. The thing about Chuck is that he disappeared out of thin air. There was like a Ferris wheel that he got on top of. He got on, but he literally didn't get off. It's like he literally vanished into thin air. And it's one of the biggest mysteries of all time. And so they realized magic had a play in that, but they don't know how. Now, during the whole memory thing of grandma, Kelly sees mud on her shoes, a leaf on her like jacket, and there's like a little paper thing in the pocket of her jacket. So they do some thinking and they realize it has to do with this park out in the woods. So for some reason, her grandmother went out there. So in the next episode, they decided to go camping with their dads to see what, their grandma was looking for. They make a spell, but they can't get away from the dads, but they are able to get away from when they they go on the trail looking for whatever the grandma was doing. It's supposed to make them relive their greatest fear. Kelly's afraid of snakes. Darby says she's not afraid of nothing. And of course, Hannah is afraid of not being prepared. So they all get tested in some of the most unique kind of ways. Darby's is the most unique way because she lied. She's afraid of being alone. So the woods literally enclose her in like a cocoon away from the rest of the girl. After all, they break their fears. And then it's time for Kelly. She assumes she's going to see snakes, but it's not. She gets led back to the dads and she gets all upset. See, her greatest fear is not helping her grandmother. Once she was able to conquer that, they went back on the trail. And there they met the traveler. And the traveler explains like how, she gives the books to people and this and that. Now, one thing the traveler never did, she didn't give the book to the girls because sometimes the book just goes where it wants. But she also never gave them Morbian seed. And because like after what happened with, what's the face? The older ladies, the original cooks, pretty much the magic book decided, hey, no more Morbium for any like protector. Even the in-betweeners didn't get none. And so like, she asked about like the curse her grandma's under, and the ladies all like, she's under this powerful, like extremely powerful spell. And Kelly said she's willing to do whatever price it takes to break the spell. And the travelers are all like, it would be a price like no other and everything. because you know you're dealing with like really powerful forces. So then she disappears and everything, and then in the book, magic words start appearing in a blank page, and it's something Kelly needs. It's a spell that can break any curse whatsoever, but it comes with an extremely high risk, and Kelly is willing to pay for it. So now we get to the final 2 episodes, which is a two-parter, and it's a doozy. Basically, a lot of stuff gets revealed. So after finding out this new spell, the girls take it to Mama P. And Mama P is all like, this is way too dangerous. I can't let you girls do it. Hannah is relieved because Hannah does not want to do this spell whatsoever. But Kelly is extremely adamant. And so her and Hannah go back and forth about doing this spell. Mama P, of course, always has a trick up her sleeve. She tells the girls that, okay, since Kelly wants to take the price of this whole spell, instead of Kelly taking a huge price, why don't they dilute the spell? Instead of 5 pieces of Pluots, they're gonna make 500, and they're gonna sell them at the Pluot Festival and give them out for free. That way, instead of one gigantic price, it's just a teeny tiny price. And so everybody's on board with this except for Hannah. Hannah is just like, she just can't do this, you know? So when everybody leaves, Hannah runs to Kelly's house and tells her mom, yeah, she rat and snitched her out. She tells Kelly's mom that Kelly has been making her do all kind of bad stuff towards Mrs. Silver, sneaking into her garden, going to her house and disrupting stuff, all kind of stuff, which is true. Kelly is like beside herself and cannot believe it. Even Darby can't believe that she got snitched on and stuff. But then, so like, you know, this is after no, wait, this is so anyway, so yeah, they're just like mortified. They can't believe it. So Kelly's mom is livid, and then Hannah ups the doozy. Now Hannah is gonna lie, and Hannah is gonna say that Kelly lied and say she's gonna be spending the night at my place, but she's really gonna be at Charlotte's Pluot party, and that's a complete bold lie. And that Charlotte's sister isn't responsible enough. This sends Mrs. Quinn over the edge, and she grounds Kelly for 2 weeks. So when her mom leaves, Kelly and Darby let her have it. They just can't believe what she did. But she tells them straight up, she's Kelly's like really close friend, and she's worried about Kelly, you know, because she really is, because Kelly is not thinking this through. They have no idea what the side effect is going to be. She tells them, read the riddle again. It said, you know, like the curse will be reflected onto you, which means what's going on in Grandma Quinn's goofy head will happen to Kelly and stuff. And Kelly just doesn't care. So now Kelly, of course, has a plan. So she asked the book for help. And so she's gonna use In My Shoes Schnitzel. So basically what that is that when she cooks it and when Darby eats it, everybody's gonna think Darby is Kelly. So next thing you know, they do that, and then Kelly goes and makes the Pluots with Jake and Mama P. Well, at some point, Hannah sees that Kelly is at Mama P's, and she's surprised because she's supposed to be grounded. So she runs to Kelly's house. And next thing you know, Darby answers the door, and she's just kind of like, Kelly, how are you here? I just saw you at the other place. So Darby's doing her best to pretend to be Kelly, but then she's like, what's your middle name? And then she's like, And then so like, Hannah is just like really upset, and she runs back to Mama P's and stuff. And what's so funny, Darby's all like, what's my middle name? So like, when she gets to Mama P's, you know, she tells them she's not gonna allow them to do all this, and her and Kelly just have it out really loud, like a really loud argument. And she tells Kelly straight up, you know, like, I really care about your grandma, and I've been doing everything for your behind. Like, you know, I've been doing this, I've been lying, I've been doing this and that. And see, the thing about Kelly, she never thinks. Like, she always thinks about what she needs, but she never stops and thinks that other people have helped her do things. And when people care about her, she just can't see that because her lines are blurred. So Mama P kicks her out the restaurant. and Mama P tells her something. She's all Mama P just acting weird. She's all like, I'm not gonna let you stop this from breaking the curse and and the things she just saying is so strange. And then she tells Hannah, I don't like it when people get in my way. And then she just slams the door. So Hannah goes and sits like on a bench, and she sees like a coffee shop that's been closed down. Now, one thing I didn't mention, because I wanted to save it till now, Mama P early on in this season went to a coffee house and talked to the owner and gave him some food, talking about how she loves like his place and this and that. It's competition for her because she also serves coffee right next door. So, like, what is it? So Hannah starts putting the pieces together. Hannah's very smart. After reading those newspaper articles, she goes back and she sees that the restaurant that she's looking at got closed down because of a rare infestation of South American cockroaches. Now, we live in North America. South America is very, very far away. And so she's starting to realize that Mama P is the one who has been cursing the entire town. And that wasn't Mrs. Silver's hit list. It was Mama P. So she goes to Mrs. Silver's, and Mrs. Silver's tells her straight up, Ida is not who you think. She's a really bad person. She's been cursing the entire town left and right. And anytime she has a problem with somebody, she curses them and stuff. That's why there's no other competition in town when it comes to her restaurant, her food's not all that great. So, like, Hannah's all like, what can we do? And Miss Silver is all like, nothing. I told y'all to leave magic alone, and it's best to make a protection spell and all this other stuff. And so, like, she runs back to Kelly's place and talks to Darby, and she convinces Darby that, yeah, Mama P really is evil and everything. So, back with Kelly and them, so in order for the spell to work, all the pieces have to be made first. And then the person who is cursed must take the first bite and the very last bite. So, she gives Kelly a piece to take to her grandma and stuff. And so it's basically just Mama P now by herself. And Darby shows up looking like Kelly. And so she's confused that Kelly is there because she just went home. So she grabs like Darby by the arm and kind of forces her to reveal herself. In order to reveal yourself, you have to say your actual name 3 times. So then Mama P's like very impressed. She's like, oh, I used to use that spell when I was your age and stuff. And then so next thing you know, they get into a small argument and Mama P eats the Pluot first because she wants to break her own curse and everything. So Darby's all like, I'm gonna call Kelly. So she locks Darby in the pantry all stinking night with nothing to eat. There's only ingredients in there. You can't really eat ingredients and stay alive. And when you find out what the curse breaker is, you will be shocked. So in the very last episode, everybody in town is at the Pluot Festival. Now, it's a very small town, so it's about 500 and plus people. So they're there, and whatchamacallit, so they're sending out all the Pluots for everybody to eat, and they're making Jake eat as many as he can to the point where he almost throws up and stuff. And so Hannah shows up, and Kelly does not want nothing to do with her and stuff. And so she's worried, and she sees Miss Regina Silvers, and she tells her like, I have a protection spell. You need to make one, and this is gonna be bad, and blah blah blah, stuff like that. So then they start looking for Darby and stuff, and then she convinces Jake that Mama P is evil, but he doesn't want to believe her. So then they go back to her pantry, back to her place, and they hear banging and stuff, and it's Darby. So they rescue Darby, and Darby literally says she's starving, had nothing to eat all night and stuff. It's gonna get worse after that when you start knowing what Mama P did now. So they go home and they make a protection spell. They make 4 vials and everything. And they go back and they try to give one to Kelly. Well, Hannah tries to give one to Kelly. That was just so dumb. And she hates Hannah. Why is she going to listen to Hannah? So she gets pissed and talking about, I never want to speak to you ever again. I'm not drinking anything you make. She grabs the vial and just shatters it on the ground. So now there's only 3 left. And so like, oh yeah, so there's only like 3 left, and so next thing you know, Mama P, okay, everybody's already ate all the Pluots, right? Mama P is now like talking and stuff because she's the one running this festival, and Mama P, and so everybody's all like, she's evil, she's evil. Well, that's what I'm hearing them saying, but Kelly don't want to listen. As soon as Mama P starts talking, Mama P lets the town have it, boy. She insults everybody, talking about how she hates everybody in town, how she hates Puas, how she hates they don't tip, and like how they're like disgusting, terrible people, and she's sick of this town, and she can't wait to leave. The expression on Kelly's face said it all. She's like, ah, crap. Y'all like telling the truth. And then this thing you know, Mom P eats like the last pluot. No, before she eats it. So then they all like, well, we only have 3 vials left. So Jake gives Kelly his and everything. So they drink it like really fast. And then Mama P eats the last pluot. Next thing you know, everybody freezes in place. That was Mama P like reversal spell, since she is stuck in town. Now all the people are stuck in town, but not the way she was. They are literally stuck, cannot move. They have no self-awareness, nothing like that. Kelly is mortified because she cursed the entire town. And not only that, but she cursed Jake and stuff. And so Mrs. Silver, she had the protection spell, so she's protected. And she's just all like, you girls, like, there's nothing you can do, but you just have to like live with this and blah blah stuff like that. But they all like, no, they're gonna find a way to stop this. They're really smart and they can figure something out. And so next thing you know, Mama P, her and Miss Gina's like get into an argument talking about you're just a despicable person. She's like, oh, you're no different because you cursed me and all this other stuff. And the girls literally make them start arguing and stuff. And Mama P tells her straight up, stop thinking your grandma is so innocent, because she's not innocent. If you knew what she did, then you will not think she's so innocent back in the past. Basically what happened was, after they was about in their early 20s, they were still friends, kinda, and this revealed in season 3. So after those two cursed each other, Grandma Quinn, she got rid of the book. She just tossed it. Now here's the rules of the book. Any of the 3 protectors can relinquish it, or it will move on its own when it's not ready to move. Okay, so basically like this: once you learn everything you're supposed to learn and do everything you're supposed to do with magic, the book will literally find a new like host and everything. But however, if you don't want it no more, you can get rid of it, and that's what she does. Since she's one of the protectors, she can do it, and you don't need the permission of the other 2. So she tosses it like in a river or something like that, and so they stayed cursed and had no way to break it. So that's why they've been so pissed. But they also don't tell them about the other thing. And I'll get to that a little bit later. So the girls are all like, they need to find a way. Oh no, Mom P, then she leaves and she's talking about so long, Saffron Falls or something like that. Whatever it's called. And then she hops on Jake's bike and rides off, and then the girl's all like, hey, that Jake's. And she's all like, so what? Tell him he can give it in Lavender Heights at the bus stop. Now, keep in mind Lavender Heights, because that comes up an extreme lot in season 2. And so, like, the girls, they head into Mama P's place, and they looking at the ingredients, and they're like, okay, look, they've cooked so many times, they can break this thing. They just have to figure out a way. Now, this comes from the book and how they break the curse. They're going to use every family ingredient that they can. Intelligence, psychological, emotional, physical, stuff like that. But here's the problem. All 3 family hates each other, and they don't want to be in the same like concoction and everything. So the girls figure out, hey, look, what if we use all the ingredients in the food, but we don't cook them in the food? So they make a 3-layer cake, and in those 3 layers is each family member. Therefore, each family member is now part of the same food, but it wasn't cooked and blended in there. So they head back. And then here comes Mrs. Silver. She comes back with a vial, and inside is morbium, tons of it, because she grew it in her garden. And she tells the girls, your cake ain't gonna be powerful enough, you're gonna need morbium. But the girls, Kelly's all like, you know what? She trusts in herself, and she trusts in her friends, and she trusts her instincts. Well, her instincts curse the whole town. So, in a way, they eat the cake, and boom, everybody's like back to normal. And so Grandma Becky Quinn, she's back to normal too. And they asked her straight up, like, who cursed you and everything? It wasn't Mama P. And she's all like, no. And she reveals so much revelations happen in this reveal. It is insane. So, remember when Grandma Quinn went to Mrs. Silver's and wanted to get rid of the book because she didn't want her granddaughter to have it, and she gave her that box of spices. She went and made a concoction that will like literally destroy the book and everything. She ripped pages out of the book, those were the missing pages, so that it would have an essence of whatever it is about to be destroyed. And then she was about to put the book inside the concoction. Well, since the book is technically alive and wants to stay alive, it fought back and it made the concoction backfire onto her, wiping her like memory, her essence, her mobility, everything. Because even though she still has self-awareness, like she can't really communicate with nobody. She can't point to nothing, she can't write, she can't talk. One way she tried to stop the girls from cooking in the past was to destroy everything in the kitchen. And that's why the family was going to send her, not to a home, my bad about that. I said she was going to a nursing home. No, she was going to a specialist in New York. And so, like, she tells them that's how she got cursed. She basically cursed herself by mistake and everything. And so, like, she's talking about how, like, powerful the girls are and how smart the girls are, way smarter than they are. But then it hits her. She's all like, holy crap. This thing was so powerful, it broke literally every cursed spell in town. And not only did it break Mama P's curse, but it broke Grandma Quinn's. And that means it broke every single last one. Grandma Quinn is terrified right now. Why? Chuck. Oh, Chuck. It's finally going to be revealed what this whole Chuck situation is about. And then she tells them, if it broke every spell, then it broke the one that she put on Chuck and everything. Because she cursed Chuck back in the day and stuff. Partially. She partially cursed him and somebody else cursed him too. But anyway, then next thing you know, you see like a Ferris wheel and you see like these feet get off it. And it just like ends. Now, the person who plays Chuck, I can't remember if they show his face or not towards the end of the episode. Only because, okay, when this episode first started, they had a flashback of one of the girls on the Ferris wheel with Chuck. And they didn't really show his face, but they showed the girl's face. And his face is kind of blurred and everything because of some equipment. And the parts you can make out, it does not look like the actor they cast as Chuck. So that's why I think in the photograph, it's not him. It's literally just like a stand-in and stuff. And so, like, they are terrified of Chuck. But they won't say why because it ends on a cliffhanger. And that's for next season. I love this show too much. It's so good. Like, you will not believe it. And like I said before, it was meant for kids, but adults end up watching because it's so much better than all of this other adult stuff. Like, there's Charmed the Reboot. Charmed the Reboot sucks. There's The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. That show sucks. There are other like witch type shows out right now and they just all suck and they're all getting canceled very fast. And this was just like a kid's show of all things. But you know what's really interesting when it comes to Kelly? Kelly is a very noble person, but she's also flawed and very selfish. See, she's meant to be this great big hero, but when you go throughout the entire series, especially this first season, you realize that she is extremely flawed. She is very selfish. Her noble acts are that are selfish acts and stuff. That's great. She wants to help her grandmother, but she will do it at any cost, even if it means hurting people and stuff. And it's just like when you look at this show and you see all the older cooks and then you see the newer ones, you start to pick who's their counterpart. Now, we all know Mrs. Silvers. She is Hannah's counterpart. Like, Hannah and Mrs. Silvers are too similar. It's just that one's nice and one cranky, but they're both like scared of stuff. They both they overthink things, stuff like that. Now, when it comes to Darby and Kelly, those are the two confusing ones. However, you start to realize, once you start to see Mrs. Quinn, Grandma Quinn, like in season 2 and 3, especially season 3, you start to see she's more like Darby a little bit, especially in season 3 when we see some flashbacks of her younger self in her 20s. And that's kind of weird. You would think Grandma Quinn would be more like Kelly and stuff. But, some interesting things happen between her and Kelly in the next season. But, Darby's a little impulsive. She acts sometimes without thinking. Sometimes that's Grandma Quinn and everything. And, of course, Kelly, she is more like Mama P. Mama P is selfish. Kelly is selfish. Mama P is obsessed with magic. And Kelly is obsessed with magic. So much that, when you see the rest of this series, you will be shocked and surprised. But that's enough rambling about this show. Now I need to talk about some other shows. I need to record as much material as I can because, like I said before, for Halloween, I'm going to try to only review Halloween stuff. So then after Halloween, I got a bunch of stuff to review after that. Now back to Mama P. Mama P is evil. Like, you would never assume how evil she is because, like, she doesn't always seem that way. It's like she cursed an entire town and froze them. They would have starved to death. Not to mention Darby. Like, how did she know Darby wasn't gonna get free? Like, she just locked her in a pantry and the girl had nothing to eat. She literally would have starved and died. And not to mention, like, how did she know that the other two, like, since Darby was out of commission and they probably couldn't find her, how did she know the other two girls were gonna break the curse? She didn't. She had literally no idea. And then there's Jake, a guy who she actually likes and cares about, like he's her own son, and she totally just uses and messes him up. It's like, when I say that woman is like evil dark, like she's like, this show is dark on a kid's level dark. And it's just like, man. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.